Hello guys, and welcome to another podcast episode of Noir Presents. Today we're chatting to Kayla Banfield, owner of The Method Now, a CrossFit coach. Enjoy.
My first full-time job was as a kids TV presenter.
Yeah.
So I worked on the kids TV show Totally Wild. I don't know if you guys are familiar with
you
it.
worked on that? That's
Okay.
awesome.
It's
I
so
didn't remember that when I was a kid.
People from Australia are like, oh my God, yes. And everyone from America is like, crickets. Like, I'm like, it's a really good kids TV show.
I still remember the theme music. It's so
Yeah,
good.
and it hasn't changed in like 20 or it's. I think it's
so it's still-
evolved,
yeah,
but
sure.
it's not. It's very similar. And Stacey's still on the show. Like I remember she was there when I watched it as a kid.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, so when I was 19,
how long ago were you on that?
well, I'm 27 now, so 8 years ago.
Yeah.
It was pretty much straight from school. I studied because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. I went to university. I did a Bachelor of Arts because it was the kind of like I don't know what I'm doing degree.
Yeah, sure.
And I got 3/4 of the way
I did that
through
too,
it.
don't
Yeah. I think like a lot of us
I did
have
commerce,
a Bachelor. And I was at the gym and I knew this girl that was on Totally Wild. And so I went up to her and I was like, hey, this is something I'd really be interested in. I did a lot of amateur theatre at the time. And I said, like, how do I get into a role like this? And I've never been afraid to ask questions of people that, I think might have some answers that I could learn something from. And she said, oh, well, actually, there's a role going at the moment. I'm leaving. And, here's the email address. And so I sent them an email and I said, hey, I'm interested. I have no experience whatsoever, but, can you tell me more about the role? And they were like, yep, no worries. Send us in your show reel. And I was like, oh, shit, like I don't have a show reel. Like am I allowed to say that, by the way? That's
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't have one. So, luckily enough, I had done some filming with a friend like the week before, and we kind of like cut up like 30 seconds of what I thought was, pretty terrible. Sent that in, and they were like, oh, we actually really quite like this. We'd like you to come in for
awesome, cool.
Yeah, come in for
What kind of stuff was it?
What did I do?
30 seconds of real.
It was like, there was like an art gallery that had just opened in Adelaide, and a friend was like organizing it. And she was like, we just want to do a tour. So can you just like take us around for a tour? It's like really easy stuff, just explaining kind of what was around. And I was actually going to say no to that because I was like really nervous about being on camera, but I'm lucky that I did. Otherwise I wouldn't have a show reel.
Yeah, definitely.
Everything happens for a reason, obviously like that's helped me get the role. And then I sent that in, then they said, yeah, we really like it. We'd love you to come in for an audition. So I came in, did an audition. And then they said, we'd love you to come back for an interview. So I went in for an interview, flew up to Brisbane, and I got it. So I kind of like went into it with no experience, but it was like the best place for me to learn. And like I'm a big believer of kind of like learning as you go. Like obviously study and getting degrees are super important, but I think nothing really gives you real world experience like actually doing it.
No, that's cool.
So the first couple of shows that went to air, like God forbid, I hope they're buried away somewhere in the
How did it go? You said you were nervous on camera. So.
Yeah, I was really nervous, and I think that came across, but I think really the only way to do it was to just get thrown in the deep end. So I was a kids TV presenter for 2 years. And that was based in Adelaide, and it was really cool because I got to do lots of fun stuff like jumping out of a plane. We went skydiving.
Oh, wow.
Probably my favourite story was chasing wombats, and it sounds worse than it is, but it was for research purposes. We went, I can't remember where it was, like somewhere up near Snowtown or something like that, like just basically like land. And we had to essentially catch wombats, and it was late at night, and we were in the back of a ute, and it would be driving really slow.
Catching wombats.
And we'd have these nets in our hand, and we'd have to jump out and put the net on the wombat, and then put our feet on the net, and they'd take them in, and they'd like put a.
And you guys were recording the whole thing as well?
Yeah.
That sounds intense.
Yeah. So that was the most fun, I think, because like obviously we wrote a script for it, but it was really just like kind of go out there and get whatever you can.
Yeah.
And the coolest thing was we got a wombat, and there was a baby in its pouch, and obviously
cute.
these are professionals, and so they weren't just literally ripping wombats out of their homes and like stealing their babies. It was obviously done with research in mind, and but yeah, that was really cool. But I got to do a lot of cool things on the show. So that was my first kind of foray into
television.
Being on camera. Being on
sure.
camera, which kind of started with this podcast talking into a microphone. So I did that, and then
what kind of experience did you have when you were in high school doing the theatre stuff?
So when I was, I think 16, my mum saw in the paper an audition for a musical for Pippi Longstocking.
Yeah.
And my mum tells me now that at the time it was because I was a little bit naughty, and she just wanted me, like in school I was just a bit of a brat, and like, I had...
So wanted you doing kind of extracurricular things? Like
exactly, like keep me occupied.
Get you out of the house, yeah, sure.
Like give me something to focus my energy on. And so, I went to a drama school, and I fell in love with musical theatre and performing and dancing and singing, and I'm totally average at it. Like I'm not a good singer dancer. actor.
I was going to say, can you still sing?
No, look, I think I can sing in tune, but I can't sing very well. Like I'm not the kind of person that, can you sing? Can you?
No,
you know what?
No, yeah, no, Nick was thinking, do it.
That is one skill. Like if I could have any skill in the world, it would be to sing.
Oh, really? I used to do.
I just think it's so cool.
I did singing in a bit of choir in high school, but I can't sing at all. I was so terrible.
Yeah.
I wish I was better.
But I feel like
Give us a sample.
I'm okay.
I do.
We'll be the
Like, do you
judge.
record? Do you write or
No.
you just have the
just
gift
for fun.
More like karaoke night.
Karaoke.
Yeah, cool.
Nick's been meaning to do karaoke night for like a good little while now.
Yeah, I've been trying to get everyone to do it. Everyone's
It's a lot of fun. It's bonding.
Yeah,
Okay. Oh,
do it.
You got a
He's
microphone.
too shy.
No, it's okay.
Well, I'm
another
the
time.
kind of person
Okay,
that was
sure.
like good in an ensemble. Like I could sing in tune, I could pick a harmony, I could stay in that harmony, I could move my feet. Like mind you, it was amateur theatre, so I did like a lot of kids theatre. I think that translated really well into Totally Wild because obviously it was for children. It's quite different being on camera, in terms of a theatre. But I think it was a good kind of stepping stone for me.
Definitely. Yeah.
And it kept me busy. So we'd have like rehearsals a couple of nights a week, and then we'd have shows throughout the school holidays, and we'd dress up, and so that was fun.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And where was I going?
And then so after Totally Wild.
Totally Wild.
Yes. So, I left the job at Totally Wild. I was there for 2 years. My contract ran out. And at that time, my boyfriend was opening his first CrossFit gym, and I started getting really interested in health and nutrition. And I found myself at work researching nutrition.
So what year was that, sorry?
This was, when I was 21. So 6 years ago.
Yeah, sure.
I should have probably done it in terms of like the year that we were in.
No, let's just go by your age.
But okay, cool. So I was about 21.
Yeah, cool. I didn't realize CrossFit was being opened in Australia at that time.
Yeah, so I think the first CrossFit gym was opened maybe early 2000s, like a long time ago.
Yeah, sure.
Or maybe that was
like,
America.
I
don't know.
In the US somewhere.
I think in the US it was early 2000s, and then the first CrossFit Games was like 2007, 2008, and that's when it kind of gained international popularity, I suppose.
You know, when they first opened the gym, was it just like about, like, like really kind of like, what is it, like functional fitness?
Yeah. Not very many people know what CrossFit is. So CrossFit is, it's basically functional fitness. It's a combination of weightlifting, gymnastics, cardiovascular movements like running, rowing. We try and take, I guess, like a lot of different movements and turn that into like kind of like a workout scenario. So you mentioned functional movements. Basically, we try and mimic movements that the body naturally does, like sitting down. So we squat, pressing, we push things overhead, learning how to lift things up off the ground correctly using correct form. So we don't tend to spend a lot of time isolating our muscles. We try and use the whole body as one machine, because in everyday life, that's, what you're going to be doing and what we want to kind of train as we get older. So it's generally done in like a high intensity kind of scenario. Sometimes the workouts are 4 minutes, sometimes they're 40 minutes. They range. And I think the whole idea of CrossFit as well is to be constantly varied. So we're always giving our body different stimulus. Like a lot of people I know.
So it's like a good kind of all round like fitness.
And I know in the bodybuilding industry, and there's nothing against bodybuilding, but for me personally, I found it I've never done bodybuilding, but like the style of training was quite repetitive for me. And I've had people write programs for me before, and I'd love it for a week, but then in the second week I'd get bored of it.
Yeah,
and I was like,
definitely.
I did this last week.
Well, it's like super interesting if like fitness as well, if you want to get like the broad population to keep it like really interesting and fun.
And so it's changing the movement every single day. And like a lot of CrossFit gyms won't announce or release their workout until 6 o'clock the night before. And what that does is try to avoid cherry pickers, because if there's someone that doesn't like running, they're going to avoid a running workout. When in reality, they probably need to work on their running. So it is still, released the night before, but we try not to kind of let people.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
But I'm a cherry picker. Like I've kind of like gone into that now.
So what do you avoid?
I like the gymnastics movements more than I like the weightlifting movements. Anything heavy, I tend to stray away from. But I do try and just find a routine and just train regularly and, go by how I feel on that day. If I don't feel like lifting heavy, I won't. And I think that's like a really big thing in CrossFit is people feel like they have expectations to, lift a certain amount or push themselves to a certain amount. But, if you just show up and do what you feel like doing on the day, then I guess I think you've won. Like,
definitely.
Really
well, I think that's
100%
it. I think it's more about like building habits as well, and just making sure you kind of get there every day or every few times a week, whatever.
Yeah, so my boyfriend opened.
Back to it,
I'm remembering where we're going. I'll finish
Sorry,
my story soon.
That's Troy's last day. He's out.
Oh no, bye Troy. It's been real. So when I was 21, he opened his first CrossFit gym, and I was like obsessed with it. I just started. I'd lost a lot of weight. I became really interested in nutrition. And so my quality of work at Totally Wild was kind of declining a little bit. And I would rock up
Sorry, what do you mean by quality of work? Like you weren't feeling it as much?
Yeah, not so much my quality of work in front of the camera, but like my...
Your passion?
Yeah, I guess I just I got told so many times, do not come to work in your gym clothes. And I just blatantly ignored it. Like I've always really struggled to dress up. Like I've never been someone that's really liked putting on makeup or doing my hair or wearing nice clothes. Like I really much prefer to be comfortable. So it's kind of like not me anyway. But I would go to the gym and I'd come straight from the gym into work, which like in hindsight is pretty gross. But that's what I was doing. And I was getting told off for it. And my boss was getting to the point where she'd ask other people like, what's Kayla wearing today? And it kind of just got like a little bit like, it was just messy.
Yeah, sure.
I lost my passion for it, and I started like loving the world of business and loving the world of fitness and nutrition. And so I handed in my resignation. I didn't really know what to do. My boyfriend was running the gym really well by himself. He didn't really need me to be there.
Yeah, sure.
And so he was like, well, why don't you go travel? So I went to Bali and I did my yoga teacher training for a month, and then I traveled for a month. So I'm a qualified yoga teacher, but I don't teach yoga classes anymore.
Okay, sure. Do they do that at CrossFit? Is there yoga?
So I ran classes for a little while, and some CrossFit gyms have yoga classes. Most of the time we try and, rather than saying it's yoga, it's more just like a mobility or a stretch class, because obviously that's a very important part of training, is making sure that you recover and stay mobile and stay injury free. So for a little while we ran yoga classes, and funny story actually, when I was coming back from Bali, my boyfriend is a bit of a romantic, and he wanted to set up my yoga room for me. So what he did is he bought this theatre curtain and he sectioned off about a quarter of the gym, and then bought 200 tea light candles and wrote Namaste in tea light candles. Yeah, you can see where this is going. And then lined the entire room with tea light candles. And at the time our walls were made out of like plyboard or something, like dry wood basically. God bless him. Like the intention was there.
It's there for the
Don't want to make a fool of him on this podcast, but I was just like, oh babe, did you not think? Anyway, so he picked me up from the airport. My flight was delayed, of course, and we got there and we could see smoke coming out of the building, and like I could see it in his face. Like his face just immediately dropped.
Oh shit! What have I done?
He's like, why didn't I think of this? We opened the door and smoke just like hit us in the face. Me, the idiot. Like I was like a stunned deer. Like I didn't know. I was just standing there. Like I was like, I'm kind of worried about if I put myself in that situation again, because I just freaked out. I didn't know what to do. He was like, babe, call the fire brigade. Luckily at the time we had a leaky water fountain which had like buckets of water like basically ready to go. So we
lucky the fountain was broken.
Burned down the building for you,
thankfully. But then stupidly opened the roller doors. Now we learn oxygen ignites fire, so it kind of like anything that was like kind of still existing then became like a really big issue, and a couple of people ran across the road and helped, but we got it out. But I honestly think if we were a minute later, like it would have spread to the roof, then gone to the...
God, that's terrifying.
We had residents behind us, so we were really lucky.
Do you still leave him at home by himself?
Sorry?
Do you still leave him at home by himself?
No, not after that. Or just not at least with fire anyway. So I went to Bali, did my yoga teacher training, did a little bit of soul searching, I suppose, just take some time off to figure out what I wanted to do. Came back and did some yoga training, then did some CrossFit classes.
Okay. Cool.
And then kind of where I was going with the media stuff is pretty much every year I've worked for CrossFit headquarters in their media department, doing various shows with them. So some of them have been in America, some of them have been in Australia. But yeah, I've been fortunate enough to work on their media team and do some shows with them throughout the year. So I still kind of get to be on camera a little bit without it being my full-time job. And it's also obviously in an industry that I really love.
Yeah.
So,
I just watched the clip before actually.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, but your hair was different.
Hair? Yes. Yep. Yeah. I loved my purple hair, but I was the idiot that went brown, purple, brown, purple, brown, purple. And what that meant is that I bleached it so many times that one time, it was just one time too many. My hair was falling out. Like
really?
I would be in the shower and it was like one bleach too many, and it was just falling out. And I have extensions now, so because my actual hair is really short, but the bleach killed my hair. But yeah, I went purple kind of when I started doing media for CrossFit HQ. Just because I wanted to do something fun and.
Yeah, very cool. Nice. Oh, cool. So how would you describe is it the CrossFit Olympics? Is that how you describe it? No, the
CrossFit Games?
CrossFit Games, so yeah.
Well, how would I explain it?
Yeah, how do you describe it?
It's kind of like a music festival, but fitness orientated. So,
okay, cool.
So basically the CrossFit sequence of events is at the start of the year in February, March, they run what's called the CrossFit Open. And I don't know the exact numbers on this, but there's hundreds of thousands of people that compete in it. And the whole idea behind it is that anyone does it. So it's a good way to measure your fitness from one year to the next. Anyone that's competitive can obviously measure it against other people, but the whole idea of CrossFit is to just continuously improve
your
yourself.
Progress.
Yeah.
And you compete as well?
Not anymore. I used to do the Open, but I don't do CrossFit every day anymore. So I've brought it down, and I do different things like Pilates and spin class. And
awesome, I think I need to do Pilates. I got weak hips.
Sorry?
I think I need to do Pilates.
I love Pilates. I can go down this path a little more after, but I got two in my head with CrossFit because I'm competitive, but I'm not competitive enough to be a CrossFit athlete, and it kind of messed with my head. Competing. And so
I was going to say, you get too competitive.
For some people, it can actually be a bit of a detriment because you can put expectations on yourself, and like I'm surrounded by my boyfriend who's a games athlete, my best friend who's a regionals athlete, my coaches who are, we had a team as well. And so my idea of success based on the people that I surrounded myself with was being a good athlete, whereas that was not something that I was really right for me, but I kind of got a bit caught up in that. So I can talk about that more a bit later, but I decided not to compete because it wasn't good for me personally.
Sure. But that's not the idea of it though. It's like not a competitive scene.
Not,
it's more just like jumping in and
it's not, but it's I guess that's my own flaws, I suppose that.
Yeah, no, I get you. I get competitive.
Yeah, that sometimes, it's not the best thing for me. But anyway, so I have done many Opens and I kind of also got to the point where I started getting worse at CrossFit, and I was like, I don't really want to compare myself to my last year CrossFit because I'm not as good as I was last year. I didn't train as I'm healthier, I'm fitter, I'm wiser, I'm smarter, but I'm not as good as CrossFit as I was. So it was kind of like pointless for me to just watch myself kind of. And the more people that do CrossFit as well, the harder it is to stay competitive. So
I was going to say, so they run that in Adelaide, is it?
So that's online. It's an online competition. So they'll release 5 workouts over 5 weeks, and you have to do them with a registered judge. You get judged, so your standards are all the same. And they just run those
at the gyms, like the judges?
Yeah, so it's got to be at a CrossFit affiliate. So we pay a certain amount of fee a year to be a CrossFit affiliate. And then, hundreds of thousands of people do it all over the world. You get a rank worldwide. You get a rank in your country. You get a rank in your gym. Cool. You get a rank in your state. So it is like, it's quite competitive. It'd be so competitive.
Oh my God, especially ranking in the gym. You'd be like,
I know. And the state as well, like in South Australia, is quite small too. So it's easy to get it kind of ahead of yourself, I suppose, in South Australia with CrossFit. And that's done over 5 weeks. And the whole idea is that over the 5 weeks, you're tested across all the modalities of fitness, long workouts, short workouts, heavy workouts, light workouts, body weight movements, Olympic lifting movements, high rep, short rep, it's testing across basically.
And they do kind of judge you on those different categories as well?
Yeah. So, you might come like, let's say 500th in 4 events and like 100th in 1 event. And, you kind of see where your specialties are and where, there are areas that you can improve on. So from the Open, they choose 40 males and 40 females from each region. There are 8 regions across the world. And then those 40 males, 40 females, and they also have, I think, 30 teams who will compete at regionals. Then regionals is held, as I said, in 8 regions across the world. The one in the Pacific region, which is where we are, was held in Wollongong. It's now in Sydney.
Okay, cool.
And the top 5 from regionals, 5 women, 5 men, and 5 teams compete at the CrossFit Games. So you've got basically the 40 best CrossFitters in the entire world competing at the CrossFit Games. It's really cool. My boyfriend is one of those people. He won the Australian regional last year. So he was titled Australia's best CrossFitter, which is pretty cool.
Oh wow. That's crazy.
And so we just had the CrossFit Games in this month. I think it was like, a month ago or 3 weeks ago. So just got back from that.
So up in Sydney it was?
No, so this one was in Madison, Wisconsin.
Regionals
was in May, and that was in Sydney.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And then from regionals, they went to the World Games, which was in Wisconsin, Madison, Wisconsin.
Cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the CrossFit Games it's insane. Like seeing what these humans can do. And obviously with my boyfriend being one of them, I see the work that goes in day in and day
100%.
out. And, it kind of makes sense to me because I see how much sacrifice that he puts into his life to be
how much time does he spend a day, would you say, kind of on average?
At the gym?
Yeah. We're just
it depends on the time of the year. Leading into the season, it can be anywhere from 4 hours to like sometimes as much as, you know, maybe 6 or 7, but then there's but it's not all intense. Like it's not all intensity. Like before he went to the games, he ran a marathon and, you know, that took him 4 hours. And, you know, to be fair, I don't think he did anything else on that day. But
so lazy. You only ran a marathon that day?
I know, right? And excuse me. But then there's like a lot of time that has to be taken into account with recovery and
definitely. Well, what kind of like rest does he get? Does he take like a couple of days off a week?
So he kind of has evolved as an athlete with how he approaches his rest days. He went through a period where he was doing active rest. So even on his rest days, he would still train, but it would be like what I would consider like a hard workout, but what he considers as like an active rest day.
Yeah, sure.
Like it might just be like sitting on the bike or getting his heart rate up or going through some skill pieces or doing some rehab if he has any injuries. Sitting in the sauna. We also have a float tank at our gym. So he'll jump in the float tank, get a massage.
Float tank, sorry?
It's basically like a huge bath with a lid, and it's filled with.
That's not what's it called? The
isolation tank.
What's it called? Sensory deprivation.
Yes, sensory deprivation.
Okay,
yeah. So it's got about 30 to 40 centimeters worth of water in there, and then there's about I think it's 400 kilos of Epsom salts.
Yeah, right.
So because it's such a dense solution, your body is buoyant, so you're basically floating on the water.
You just like don't kind of experience anything, and it's just you in there with your mind.
So like you said,
it's pretty freaky in there, right? Because it's just like no, you can't.
So many people that walk in are like, I'm so scared. I'm like, this is not a scary experience. This is a relaxing experience. But everyone's like, I don't want to be trapped inside this like pod and not be able to get out.
But feel anything?
Exactly. It's actually really relaxing, and you can open the door and you can turn the light on, and we have music in there. But the whole idea of it is that you can't see anything, so the lid's closed. You can't.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I've been really keen on checking one out.
We've got one at our gym at
cool.
CrossFit Mode. So you know, it's a couple of k's away. You're always welcome to.
Oh, nice.
And the water is set to skin temperature. So the whole idea of it is that you go in there with nothing really nice. And you kind of lose sensation of your body. So it's not the same as like a warm bath. When you get into a warm bath, it's like substantially hotter than your skin.
Yeah.
The whole idea of this is that you lose the sensation of your body, and you're basically like, and this can sound kind of creepy, but all you are left with is your mind. And so like in this day and age, as you know, we have so many distractions. Like it's so hard for us to get into an elevator without checking our phone every 2 seconds. And I sometimes test myself and I get really like bored really quickly. And so this is a good way to kind of like force yourself to meditate.
I was going to say, so it's a lot like a meditation. Just kind of zoning out, just thinking, just alone with your
everyone
thoughts.
Goes in there for, I guess, like a different purpose, a different reason. I have different experiences every time. Sometimes I go in there and I need to think, like I want to think, I want the space to think, like my mind will be super busy, super full, and I just kind of need to go in there and process my thoughts. And like sometimes it's really frustrating because I have the best ideas in there, but also I want to get out straight away. So I'll find myself like repeating
I'm the same too. I've got a terrible memory, so I just
I have to write it down. Exactly. So I like always put alarms on my phone. I know. Just put it in the water. I need like waterproof. Or maybe I have a whiteboard or something, Or maybe I just should put like something outside. But so many times I'll like, or I'll remember things. Like, you know, when you're in the shower, it's like when you're at your most kind of, when there's nothing
I think that's
to
the idea too.
you.
When you kind of, that's like, they say that's the best time to come up with new ideas is when you're not even really thinking about them. You just like relax, it's like in the back of your mind.
You're kind of there to just chill out and you like open your mind for these ideas to come to the front of your mind. And so the same thing in the float tank is that I'll often find that I have 4 things that I want to do. Like I want to email someone about something. I want to ask my business partner about something.
You go into the float tank with these in mind?
No. I'll go in the float tank feeling like overwhelmed and like, you know, in need of rest or whatever. And then I'll come out with like a to-do list. Sometimes I have those floats. And then other times I just go in the float tank and I sleep. Like, you're not supposed to, you're not supposed to sleep. Like I think the whole idea behind float tanks is like getting to the theta brainwave state, which is just before sleep, which is where you meditate. I really struggle with that. Like I just basically fall straight asleep if I try to get into that zone. So sometimes I sleep, but hey, if I need sleep, then what a great place to get it, I suppose. And the magnesium.
It's not too weird, like just sleeping as you're like floating in there.
It's kind of weird, but it's so comfortable.
Yeah, sure.
Because like when you're in your bed, you have like the pressure points and like you kind of like can get a little bit tight.
Floating, like you're in space.
Exactly, you're like on a cloud, so you're fully supported. You're on your back.
That sounds lovely. Yeah,
it is. It's really relaxing, and it also highlights for you any areas of tension. Like if you have certain areas in your body that are, a little bit more wound up or that need kind of some attention, like just even a massage. excuse me, it's really good at, your body just notices it straight away because it's the last place to relax, or it's the last place to let go. So when I had my back injury, I used floating to kind of help me with pain management a little bit. We have people with like fibromyalgia that will come in and float. We had a woman that came in a couple of weeks ago and she had multiple sclerosis.
Yeah.
So she couldn't walk, or she was on a walking frame, and we lifted it, we carried her in and carried her out of the float tank, and she said for the first time she walked out with no pain. Like, it may have only lasted for like 30 minutes or something, but now, she's going to try and get a regular floating routine. So it can be really good for physical ailments. It's so good for athletes.
What was that the first thing you said?
Fibromyalgia.
Okay.
I don't know exactly what it is, but
it's
I think it's a nervous system or nerves, or it's got something to do with chronic pain, I believe.
Okay.
Just in a state of chronic pain. The float tank's been so good with like a lot of, I've heard a lot of people kind of like managing physical pain through floating. But for James, it's very powerful with visualization as well. So if he has a competition coming up, he's so... I can't believe he does this, but like if he has a workout that's going to take like 12 minutes or whatever it is, he will go into the float tank and he will visualize that. And I've heard of fighters that do this as well. They'll play out the whole fight in their mind. He'll go through it rep for rep. Like I'm the kind of person that's like, okay, I'm doing something. Like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And then I'll probably finish here and I'll probably be done around that time. And I'll kind of like summarize it in like 2 minutes. Whereas he like achingly sits there and like, and he feels it and he like goes through it and he visualizes it and he visualizes how he's going to feel at 3 minutes in and how he's going to feel after this movement and how much rest he's going to take here. And obviously he's a professional, so he knows what he's able to do. But he'll visualize an event in there like second for second.
And is that sort of a planning thing, or is that for his nerves, like when he's kind of in there thinking about that?
I think it's for a planning and an execution standpoint. Like
I think like you said, sorry, like I know like fighters, for example, I think it's a lot about the nerves as well. Like I think they kind of, a lot of them go into it like a little bit scared.
And I think that if you feel like you've done something before, you're more confident going into it. So I think the whole idea of visualizing it is to experience it. And even though you're not experiencing it, you're literally just thinking about it. We all know that thoughts are powerful, and that if you kind of trick yourself into believing that you've been there, second time round, it might not be as overwhelming. And I'm sure things change, on game day. I think I was listening to a podcast, a swimmer who wanted to beat a record. And so I think she visualized herself in the float tank getting a certain time, and then she managed to get that time, like exactly that time or something like that. So who knows if that was a coincidence.
Sure.
Floating's really cool. And it's good for you physically. It helps remove toxins, and it's very relaxing. It's good for muscle pain or getting rid of lactic acid, and then just good to kind of chill out.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. I think I have to check it out sometime.
I try and do it once a week.
Oh, wow.
Oh, nice. No.
Yeah.
So what's Method now? So that's the company you're running now?
Yeah. So along with the CrossFit gym, I also have an online nutrition business called The Method.
Cool.
The Method now is its proprietary limited only because The Method was already taken, but I'm kind of like moving into calling it The Method now because our emails are The Method now, website is The Method now. But basically it's an online coaching platform. It started because when I was at the gym and I was coaching, obviously we're doing a lot of exercise, we're doing a lot of training, and then I'd have people come up to me and say, hey, what do I do with nutrition now? I'm like, I've got this awesome new exercise regime and I'm training every day, but like how can I get the most out of myself by changing my nutrition? And
like what am I supposed to be eating every day basically?
Exactly. Like I'm putting so much work into this 1 hour of my day. How can I, make the most of the other 23? And so I started talking to people about like, how to eat to fuel their training and be healthier. And, there's a CrossFit, I guess, principle behind eating, which is the zone diet. So exploring that. And then there's a paleo diet and Whole30. And as we all know, there's so many different diets. So the zone diet, and I'm kind of going back here a little bit, I might have these figures wrong, but it's based on the principle of eating a certain amount of blocks per day. And blocks is like, you can kind of think about it as like counting calories. You're essentially counting the amount of food that you eat.
So you're just sort of, breaking down the calories and the energy that kind of goes into it.
You're aiming to eat a certain amount of carbs, protein and fat per meal. I don't know what these figures are because honestly, I haven't looked into it for years, but I think it's like, I think a block of fat is like 3 grams, a block of protein is 7 or 9, and fat and carbs is something like that as well. And so so CrossFit believes that like hormonally, and obviously there's so many different ways of eating, but the zone diet is eating the same number of blocks of carbs, protein and fat per meal.
Okay, sure.
So you might have like a 4-block meal for lunch, a 4-block meal for dinner, and like 3 2-block meals or something like that. And at the end of the day, you've had 12 blocks. For me, that's a little too regimented and a little too restrictive. Some people live and breathe that way. But, it's about kind of finding what works for people. So I started, helping people with their nutrition, and I was booking out appointments at the gym. People would come and see me. And it got to the point where I was, I had like 20 hours a week that was nutrition consults while I was also trying to run the gym and sit on our reception. And so I said to James, my partner, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I've got to stop nutrition. I can't run the business while I do this. And so I stopped seeing people. And then I spoke to someone who had an online nutrition platform, and I, asked her heaps of questions about how she did it. And she kind of, helped me come up with my nutrition business, which is now all online. So it's kind of like still being able to help people I started off with CrossFitters because that was the area that I was in. And now, it's grown quite substantially. I've got obviously the luxury of being able to employ coaches that can help me with, catering to these people and being online. Obviously, we're not restricted to, where people live. We now have people from all over the world from different countries.
Oh, okay, wow, cool, nice,
Yeah, so it started just, wanting to help people in the gym, and then realizing that I only had so many hours in a week, to the point where I was like, how can I make this more effective and more
that's the cool thing about the web. You can just like reach out to, like you said, people like all over the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, we're in the technology age, especially you guys would know that now. Like it just took off. And
cool.
It's weird because, it feels like I'm still just like on my computer at home, sending a couple of emails to a couple of friends. It's something that I think if you have the right people and good marketing and stuff like that, it's got the opportunity to be quite a big business.
Yeah, definitely cool. Now, how much of the marketing stuff do you kind of do?
So marketing is one of those things that I could definitely be better at. I guess an approach that we've taken with our marketing budget at the moment is sponsoring athletes. So we've got a handful of really awesome athletes who we sponsor. One of those is Tia Claire Toomey, who won the CrossFit Games this year. But she's also a great friend of myself and James's.
Oh, cool. So was she the regional champ or the world champ?
Both. So she won regionals and she won the CrossFit Games. And this girl is absolutely insane. She's also a Commonwealth Games gold medalist. She's phenomenal. She used to do track and field, but now she's a weightlifter. So it does translate because there is weightlifting in CrossFit. But the fact that she can be a Commonwealth gold medalist in one sport and then literally the best in another sport, just says so much about, her as a person, her as an athlete, insane, her coach. She's unreal. What she is capable of doing physically is just, it's so hard to believe, but she just is. She's amazing. So she's one of our sponsored athletes. We have a couple of other regionals athletes. We're spending a bit more money on influencers and ambassadors and athletes that are already using our program. That's something that we're pretty big on, is that we don't really want to approach people that aren't using the program. And we have done it before, and we do have some athletes that we approach, but we kind of felt like we'd be a really good fit to them. But we really try and have people that subscribe to, our program or Tia. We'd been helping her a little bit on the side with a few things and had kind of built a good relationship, so that grew into something.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I think that's the way to do it too. Just being like really genuine, finding people who actually, love the thing you're doing.
Exactly. And you want people to promote your business that actually use your business, believe in your business, use your product. Those that kind of choose to opt in are generally the ones that you've got the lifelong relationships with. So, we sponsor some athletes. We've been playing around with Facebook sponsored posts and,
cool. How are you finding all that?
Well, we actually employed someone or contracted someone to do that for us because, with Facebook and algorithms and social media, it's always changing. It's not as simple as pressing the boost button because, Facebook will sting you for needing to pay an extra $5 or $10 or $100 or whatever it is just to get more reach. And I didn't speak the Facebook language, so we got someone to do that. But marketing is one of those things where I just feel like there's always so much more that you can do, but you also don't want to throw away money without really knowing what you're throwing it into. So we're also going to try and sponsor some events and get stickers printed and merchandise. And I guess that marketing is such a broad, there's so many things that you can do with marketing. It's really exciting. And we've got quite a good budget put aside for marketing as well. And we're not afraid to spend money and then realize that we've just accidentally, wasted
a couple of $1,000. That's really cool too.
We're really lucky in the sense that our business allows for that. We don't have a lot of overhead. So we're obviously, really keen to put our money back in the business and try things. And we feel like, if you don't try it, you don't really know where your money's best spent. So
yeah, definitely. No, that's a really good
trying
approach.
a lot of things.
Yeah. Cool. And so how do people sign up to the Method now?
We have a website, so it's themethodnow.com.au. It's a pretty easy sign-up process. We're getting a new website and we're getting an app developed at the moment, so it'll be a lot easier for people to sign up and go through that user experience. But basically, we get people to fill out an online questionnaire. It just kind of like profiles the person as well, lets us know exactly what they're after, what they're currently doing, what their goals are, and a little bit about them.
What kind of people do you usually find as signing up for it?
We get a lot of
athletes
CrossFitters.
Or like everyday? Oh,
no. So, when I say CrossFitters, I mean just people that do CrossFit.
Yeah, sure.
That's probably 90% of the people that do, that fill out our forms, but that's only because that's our audience. Like it's James's audience, it's my audience. The people that follow me on Instagram probably have seen me at the CrossFit Games. We are definitely not just for CrossFitters. We are for absolutely everyone.
Yeah, sure.
And we're really trying to kind of, target our marketing towards people that aren't elite athletes because, even though we have 90% of people that do CrossFit, I had something to eat and then I walked here and I feel like it's like digesting in my stomach right now. So I apologize. I've burped like 5 times. Even though 90% of them are CrossFitters, like literally 0.5% of those, 0.05% of those are athletic or elite level CrossFitters. Most of our demographic is just everyday people that want to be healthier, that want to, make good nutrition choices, that want to, have healthy habits. So
it's a really good idea too. Like I think there's not enough kind of information out there just for like a regular person who just wants to eat healthier and just like,
or on the contrary, there's too much information. Like there's so much information out there that just you don't really know what way to go down.
Yeah, definitely. And finding some like really clear direction on like,
and like the thing that we're really big on is like not saying, hey, you should eat this way, you should eat this way, you shouldn't eat that, you should eat that. This is the best diet for you. It's like, okay, so what do you like doing right now? Let's do that for a week and let's see what results we get from that. What do you feel like you can change? What's one thing that we can improve?
Just break it down, and kind of test each week.
What do you feel like went really well this week? What do you feel like didn't work well this week? I guess the platform of our nutrition coaching is on counting macros. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but it's basically a more in-depth version of counting calories. I'm guessing that a lot of us have heard of counting calories before. It's basically the total energy in a food. Macronutrients are the breakdown of those calories. So with most foods,
like
you've got
different types.
You've got carbs, protein, and fat. So those are the 3 macronutrients. So in an apple, for example, it's predominantly carbohydrates. In a chicken breast, it's protein with possibly a little bit of fat, very little carbohydrate. Nuts are fats and a bit of protein and a bit of carbs. So every single item of food is made up somehow of those 3 macronutrients. When clients sign up, we take in their body weight, their goals, their exercise, and we come up with a personalized split for them. Now, in saying that, that split is going to change over time, and that's where the personalization of the plan comes in. But we say, hey, we think that this is a really good goal for you. We want you to eat, let's say, 125 grams of protein, 200 grams of carbs, and let's say 70 grams of fat. And that'll turn out to be, 2,000 calories. And so, we send that out for you in week 1, and then we teach people how to hit those macros. So, it's easy enough for me to say, here are the numbers. What are you going to do with those numbers and how do you hit them? So we send out a PDF that explains how to actually apply that. We use a program called MyFitnessPal. It's not our program. It's just an app on the App Store where you enter a food in, and MyFitnessPal will give you the protein, carbs, and fat. So you're not expected to know, how many grams of protein is in a chicken breast. If you weigh it and you put it into MyFitnessPal will break it down for you. And then there's like a little button there that you click, and it tells you how many you've had for the entire day. So the whole idea is for you to kind of be a little bit of a magician and figure out what you need to eat in a day with your coach's support, obviously, to hit those targets. And like, let's just say your target's 125 protein and you put your food in for a day, but you only hit 80 grams. It's like trying to figure out how you can get more protein in your day. So whether it's a good quality protein shake or if it's having 3 eggs instead of 2, or if it's having, salmon for dinner instead of something that doesn't have protein in it. So working towards how you can make changes to what you're already doing to hit those targets. And we've found that over time, and as we personalize the targets to you, sometimes people will come back to us and they'll completely blow out of their fat and be so under their carbs. And, if that works really well for you, then we'll adjust it to you. So we'll bring up your fat, we'll bring down your carbs. Obviously, we try to keep it within like a range that we feel is going to get you towards your goal. If someone's consistently eating 3,000 calories and they're my size, I'm going to say, I think you're probably eating a little bit too much. Sure. Obviously, I'll find a way to say it gently. Yeah. But it's a mix between doing something that really works for that person based off what they want to do, and then our recommendation for what we feel like they could do, and then finding like that happy middle. And people see diets as being so black and white, like this food is bad and this food is good, and if I eat this bad food, then I've ruined my goals, then I may as well just keep going down that track and destroy myself. But it doesn't have to be that extreme. So
I imagine it changes over time too. As you age differently, like do different exercises. Say someone wanted to get into like Olympic weightlifting too.
Athletes obviously require like quite a fair bit of food as well, 100%. And that's the biggest issue with them, is like getting them to eat enough for the requirements of their training. So
how much does your boyfriend eat? Surely it's like a lot.
So we try and get him to eat 4,500 to 5,000 calories.
You try and, like, as in,
it's hard to eat a lot of food. It's really hard.
Eat all the time, don't you?
Like people say to me, like, it's so hard to lose weight and eat less. And I'm like, well, really, you just don't eat. Like, it's a lot harder to eat more, especially when you don't feel like it. You're full.
Yeah, 100%.
Your digestion feels a little bit slow. Like, so it's hard, especially when you're training as much as they are. The last thing you feel like doing is eating. Like, if you've just like destroyed yourself in a workout, you don't feel like sitting down for a massive plate of food, So
it's a big burger,
yeah, it's about like strategizing for them, like the optimal times for eating. And we definitely try not to say like, this is what you have to do. It's like trying to figure out like, how does your day kind of plan out, and where can we fit in foods that you're going to feel good, you're going to enjoy eating them.
And is that a similar thing you do for just like general people signing up as well? Like,
absolutely.
You'll kind of figure out what times of the day to eat, like based on the activities you're doing?
And everyone's like, oh, how do you program for athletes versus the general population? It's exactly the same. Like, obviously the requirements are completely different. Like I said, athletes need to eat a lot of food, but the approach that we take to coaching people is exactly the same. It's like figuring out, what do you love doing? What kinds of food do you like eating? Is this conducive to your goals? Is it getting to you is it getting you to where you want to go? If not, how can we change that? It's like starting a conversation with people. And I think that's what like building relationships with people is all about. Like, it's not necessarily about saying, hey, I know more than you and you shouldn't eat that and you should eat that. It's about like kind of providing a mirror for people to kind of reflect. And I really think that people can solve their own problems as well. Like, I'm a big believer that we all know what's best for us. It's just you need someone to, I guess, get that out of you. And
well, I think one of the biggest things too is having like someone point out to you on like a really regular basis, like having that kind of back and forth and bring it to the forefront of their mind. Like, even not necessarily if they're following exactly, but if it's something they're thinking about like every day, every meal. And
it's like, people say that journaling is really good, and I think that our coaching platform is a form of journaling, because people have to check in with us on a weekly basis. And so a lot of the check-ins that I get are like, it's like a journal entry, like it's like a diary entry. Like, people will tell me about their whole week, their job, their boyfriend, their travel, their toilet, their cycle, like everything. Like, they literally tell me everything. Nothing is too much, trust me. It's like the worst problem ever is when people don't give you enough. It's like, well, to be honest, encourage information.
I mean, that's the biggest thing I've had personally. I think other people, Sam too has said in the past, it's like, can be really difficult to kind of really break down what you're eating and kind of monitoring it really closely, checking everything, especially like those kind of calorie calculators and things like that.
But if you have someone who's kind of guiding you through it as well, it helps you. And I always find if someone says to me like, hey, what do you think of this diet? I'm like, well, the fact that you brought it up to me obviously means that you're interested in it. So let's give it a try. Like, have you tried it before? No, I haven't. And I think one of the biggest problems with people is that they don't stick to something. So when you have someone who is keeping you accountable, who you have to speak to every 7 days, you're more inclined to stick to something, because you don't want to kind of come back and say, hey, I tried this, but it got too hard, so I kind of decided not to. People are less inclined to do that. Whereas when you're by yourself, you have no one that's keeping you accountable, so you kind of just like can go off track a little bit or make excuses or just say, I'll start next week.
I like that accountability too. I think that will definitely help.
A big part of our program is just keeping people accountable. And if they don't check in, we'll send them an email like, hey, how'd you go? How was your week? And it's not like, hey, why didn't you check in? It's like, do you want to chat about what happened? And sometimes people will say like, oh, I totally fell off, off the bandwagon and I made this mistake. And it's like, there's no such thing as falling off the bandwagon. It's all part of your journey. Like if going that way was where you needed to go this week, that's absolutely fine. But that's in the past. What did we learn from it? And how can we move on to next week?
Yeah.
And
well, I think being really reasonable about it too is like super important. Like I know I've heard about past PTs too who have just, talked about people dieting. Yeah. And someone's like, oh, I had my kid's birthday and I had a slice of cake. And they're like, you ate a slice of cake?
I know.
What have you done?
It's like, that's wrong. It's like, no, it's not wrong. It's like, do you feel like you made the right decision? If you did, awesome, great. That was a win. If you don't, what was it about the decision that you didn't like? Did you have 2 slices when you only needed 1? Or did you have a cake and then this and then that? Like, but I don't really tell anyone that they've done something wrong. Like, it really comes down to what makes people feel good. And if something makes them feel good and it's getting them to their goals, then, what else can I do but say, great job. So and just being a friend to people and like an ear to talk to and
making it really personal.
Giving someone a platform to just try different things. And we use spreadsheets and we're going to have the app soon, so we get people to record their daily weight if they're comfortable, so they're kept accountable by that, and they take their measurements and they send in photos.
I find weight's a hard one though. I think it can be like
absolutely.
A lot of weird variabilities.
For sure. And from the jump we say that to expect that weight is going to go up and down based on so many different things other than whether or not you're moving towards your goals. But one thing that weight is really good is that it shows like the linear progression, I suppose. So
over time, I guess. Yeah.
And we try and look at average weight. So we find that average weight over a week is actually a really good tool for measuring your progress from the week before. Yeah. Because in any given 7 days, you'll have a spike, you'll have a drop, and you'll have a middle point based on what you did. If you ate crappy food all day, then your weight might be higher. But the average weight will give us a relatively good snapshot of what's going on. But there's so many other things that come into play.
Muscle too, right? I mean, you put on muscle, then you're heavier.
Which is why the measurements help a lot, because measurements kind of are more consistent. They don't fluctuate as much. And you can see if people are kind of losing size on their waist but gaining in their arms, that leads us to think that perhaps they're losing weight and gaining muscle, because the scales might stay the same but the measurements are changing, so we can start to predict what's happening. And then they send the photos, and photos are a good way to kind of see. Sure. So with those 3 things, weights, measurements, photos, and of course people's mood. Like people know if they're on the right track or if they're not on the right track. Weight is just one measurement, but if you feel like if your training is improving, your sleep's improving, your mood's improving, then we're generally happy. Even if your weight is not going in the direction that you want it to go, if you feel good, that's like a 10 out of 10.
No, that's cool. I guess that's what it's about at the end of the day as well. You're totally right. It's like feeling much better.
And like keeping people accountable to their goals as well. Like I'll talk about things like, hey, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where do you see yourself next year? Do you like your job? Are you happy in your relationship? Do you feel like because like it's really more lifestyle coaching. The foundation is nutrition.
And I think these things all affect each other as well.
Exactly. If we were to just focus on nutrition, we'd be abandoning other really crucial areas that probably need a lot of attention. And it's about keeping people accountable to those goals and asking them what they're doing every day to work towards those goals. And and one thing that I find is, like I said before, is people solve their own problems a lot. And like one of the best things as a coach is when I start to get check-ins where people are answering their own questions. So they'll ask a question and they'll say, well, I think that this is what I should do, or this feels right. And, sometimes I just get to the point where I'm like, yay!
You got it,
it's so hard not just say, well done, see you next week. Obviously, you still got to give that value. But it's the best when people, because at the end of the day, you want people to live a life where they're completely in control of it and they don't need to go to a specialist in this area, like spend money here, get this diet plan, get this exercise plan. Like spending money in the right areas is important, but you want to teach people to be in tune with their bodies to learn what they want. And a big part of counting and tracking macronutrients is awareness. It's about like when you're it's like, some people say like write a food journal. It's keeping yourself accountable to what you're doing. And so if we mindlessly eat or just eat without paying any attention to what we're actually doing, we often kind of go off in like a little bit of a we get sidetracked, I suppose.
100%. I think it's so easy to forget as well. Like, especially like the little things. I know downstairs with this like little lolly jar. And I think I go down there like 4 or 5 times a day. Like,
yes, and there's
totally
Tim Tams. Whereas if you had to enter it into MyFitnessPal, you'd be like,
oh shit,
holy
what have I done?
Crap, that tiny lolly was 50 calories. And if you're on 2,000 calories or something, exactly, you have 10 of them, you're like, okay, well, I'm at a quarter of my intake on lollies and I didn't even enjoy it. So, forcing you, sometimes it is. So forcing yourself to take accountability for every single thing that you put inside your mouth will help you realize the decisions that you're making and the impact that those decisions have on your goals. And, you know, if you're happy with where you are, that's great. If you want to eat 10 loaves a day and you feel fabulous, like good on you. But if you can't lose weight and you don't know why, then maybe start to look at the decisions that you're making.
Well, I was going to say too, like, so what's the main reason you find people generally come to you? Is it people wanting to lose weight or be healthier or like put on more muscle, I guess?
Yeah. I would say a lot of it is weight loss. And, you know, a lot of people, it's like the last 5 kilos, it's like the hardest weight to move. Sure. And, you know, I often find that, you know, making healthy swaps, eating more vegetables, exercising more is awesome, but it can only get you so far. And that's where the other little stuff, you have to start kind of fine tuning it a little bit and start being very aware of what you're putting in your mouth.
Yeah, super disciplined about it.
And it's not such a discipline thing. It's just like knowing what you're doing. And half the time when we put people on a set of macros, like so many people come back to us in week 1, they're like, I'm eating more than I was before. And it's not so much that they're eating more, it's just that they're aware of what they're eating. So they're less inclined to have a lot. More. You don't feel like you're eating those 10 lollies. Like you feel like you haven't even eaten them, but you have. So when you pay attention to what you eat and you think, okay, I'm going to plan my day, you feel like you're eating more food because you're going out of your way to prepare that food, and it's normally food of substance. And, so many people think that they're eating more, but it's so much can happen when you do it consciously, like make conscious decisions.
Well, I can imagine you make people feel fuller as well, just from like the diets you actually put them on. I know personally, I think I kind of improved my diet lately, and like I feel like a lot fuller from what I'm eating. Like, it's like pretty much the same or a bit less even. So. Yeah,
awesome. And when people say to me like, I'm really hungry, I say, okay, cool. So let's focus on eating more fibrous foods or more nutrient dense foods. So, you know, obviously you can have a massive bowl of salad and it will be like a certain amount of macros, or you could have whatever, like half a block of chocolate or something like that. You're going to feel hungrier eating the chocolate, and you know, obviously it's not as good for you. So it's about like saying it's good for your soul. It's I guess about saying like picking your battles, like, and everyone is like, I have to do everything or I'm going to do nothing. I have to eat completely clean. I have to eat this many servings of veggies a day. I have to get this much sleep. I have to, you know, exercise every single day. But it's not the case. Like, we're all human. Perfectionism is not a thing that we should be aiming for, because it's an unrealistic goal. And most of the things that people are doing are 90% there. If they just kind of believed in themselves and trusted the process a little bit and could get back on the bandwagon a lot easier, then, you know, we'd find that we all got to our goals a lot quicker, but we're so hard on ourselves. And, you know, half the time as well, it's about the support and telling people that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to, you know, totally blow out on your macros because you just felt like it. Like, it's not the end of the world. If you said to me, like, I need to get on stage in 5 weeks' time, I have to be this way, I'd be like, okay, so we have to be really careful with every single item of food that you put in your mouth. But if you come to me and you're like, I just want to be healthy and I just want to be happy, like, there's nothing that you can do wrong that we can't look back on, reflect on, and like learn from it.
Yeah, definitely.
So
cool.
And with these foods, do you find that people need to change what they eat a lot, or can they still eat the same things but just differently?
Yeah, so the idea of tracking macros is that you can still eat the same things. Essentially, there is a whole idea that goes behind the if it fits your macros style, and that's you can eat anything if it fits your macros. We definitely don't subscribe to eating anything. We definitely place a large importance on quality. But the idea is it's so different to a meal plan, because in a meal plan, it's like you have to eat this at this time, this at this time, this at this time, and this at this time. It's very regimented. What if you want to go out for breakfast? Well, you can't, otherwise you're off your meal plan.
You're off the diet,
exactly. So with this in mind, you know, you can go out for breakfast and go, okay, so I'm going to choose, so maybe like if you have a higher carbohydrate diet, okay, I'll have some sourdough toast with, you know, 2 eggs and half an avocado or something like that. You put it into MyFitnessPal and you're like, okay, so where does that leave me for the rest of the day? And then you adjust accordingly. I think the issue is if we don't track, it's like, I'm going to go out for breakfast and I'm going to eat this, and then I'm going to go home and I'm going to have half a packet of chips, and then I'm going to, you know, pick at this, I'm going to make a cake, I'm going to lick the batter, and it's just being like not aware of what you're putting in your body. But when you're tracking macros, you can go out for breakfast, you can eat essentially whatever you want, track it, and then you know, adjust the rest of your day. So if one of my clients has like a wedding or something like that, or like an event in the afternoon, we talk about how to plan the rest of your day so that you can have enough macros left to still enjoy yourself and eat quite a fair bit more than you normally would in one sitting. But, you know, it's a different environment. It's social. You don't want to be that person that's like, oh, no, thank you. Yeah, I can't have that kind of thing. Yeah. And, you know, there definitely comes like a level of self-control because you still want to be within those macros, but if you plan ahead and you're able to enter your foods into MyFitnessPal, there's no reason why you can't hit your macros for that day, and there's no reason why you can't call that day a success. You just have to schedule, plan ahead, and adjust, you know, the rest of your day to kind of suit the slightly higher intake of calories in the afternoon or vice versa.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, sometimes if that means fasting in the morning, you know.
Do you do fasting on your plan? Like some people offer that?
Yeah, so like again, if that's something that you really like doing, then we'll support you through that.
Okay,
I
cool.
personally...
what do you think about it?
It works for me really well. I love intermittent fasting. I don't do it every day. I wouldn't say that I'm someone that does intermittent fast all the time, but naturally I find that I don't get hungry until about 2:00.
Yeah, sure. Just for the people listening, so how would you describe your intermittent fasting?
So what it is in general?
Yeah.
So I guess it would be spending portions of your day fasting. So obviously overnight we fast, we don't eat any food. Yep. The whole idea of intermittent fasting is to extend that fasting period to, there's different windows. I think one of the more generic ones is 16 hours of fasting and 8 hours of eating.
Yeah.
So as opposed to vice versa. So a lot of people would have 8 hours of fasting, 16 hours of eating.
That's me.
Yeah, most of us. Or you can go, 12 hours of fasting or 10 but the whole idea is to extend that period of fasting and then kind of close that window of eating. And there are so many different reasons why you do it. There's a few health benefits of fasting. It's also good to, like if you are counting your macros, to kind of save your macros for a smaller window of eating.
Yeah, sure.
It can be a bit like a weight loss tool. There's like a lot of difference. I'm not an intermittent fasting expert, so but that's kind of what it is basically. I guess. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, so, sure. What kind of hours do you do? Do you save it for the start or the end of the day?
I just listen to my body. When I'm ready to eat, I'll eat. And I'm quite often really busy in my mornings. So I'll wake up, do a little bit of work, and then I'll generally do some kind of training, whether that's a CrossFit class or a spin class or a Pilates class or just my own training. The gym that we own is next door, so sometimes I'll just go over and do my own thing. Generally, I'll hang around at the gym a little bit, go home, do a little bit more work. Sometimes it's 12 o'clock before I eat. Sometimes I generally find it's more around 2 or 3.
I used to be the same, I think. I remember, especially uni days, I used to kind of skip breakfast. These days, I'm just like so hungry first thing in the morning. I just gotta eat.
Yeah. And like some people say like you have to eat breakfast, but like why? You really don't have, if it doesn't work
like
for
a lot of people get away with it.
You don't have to.
I feel like it makes you
do
more hungry at lunch if you eat breakfast.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, I'm exactly like that.
Yeah,
if I start eating early in the day, it's like, okay, now I'm just hungry every couple of hours. It's like I start
I eat first thing in the day, and by like 10 o'clock, I'm like, I need food. Even like,
and I go through phases as well where, I'll just want breakfast and definitely some days I'll go out for breakfast. But I'm definitely a big fan of just eating when you're hungry. And, I'll have a coffee in the morning and sometimes it has milk in it or butter or whatever I feel like doing. So sometimes
butter
I will
in your coffee.
So that's a bulletproof coffee. So I think that it was kind of like definitely a CrossFit thing, like a bulletproof coffee was like a CrossFit thing. It was supposed to be like help with brain function, like having fats earlier in the morning. I kind of just do it when I run out of milk. So it's just like a backup.
Substitute,
it's more creamy than you think it would be. Like butter in coffee kind of sounds like a little bit rancid, but you blend it and it goes frothy.
I'll check it out. Yeah, cool.
So sometimes I'll have that. So it's not necessarily that
again, sorry?
Bulletproof coffee.
Bulletproof, cool. All right.
Yeah, check it out. And there's like I think it's like bulletproof.com. They have like products where there's like brain octane that you can put in your bulletproof. It's like a whole kind of way of eating.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah.
How much butter do you put in?
I put in around 20 grams, 15 to 20 grams.
How much is that? Sorry, like a teaspoon?
About a tablespoon.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, some people do like half butter, half coconut oil or MCT oil.
Yeah.
But I just do butter because it's convenient.
Yeah. With a shot of like coffee?
So a shot of coffee, then some warm water, and then just like a knob of butter and pop it in the blender.
Okay. That sounds good.
Yeah. It's not as bad as it sounds. But sometimes it won't technically be fasting because I'll have my coffee. But I just love having it. But I'm not doing it because I want to say that I fast. I'm just doing it because for me, when I'm counting macros, which I'm not at the moment, but when I do count macros, it really helps me save my macros. And I love love big dinners. I love desserts, and I love my afternoon snacks.
Definitely.
Like I love kind of at 3 o'clock, like sitting there with a bowl of like whatever it is that I find in my fridge, whether it's like a healthy bowl of avocado mousse or if it is half a block of chocolate, like whatever it is, I just really like sitting down and enjoying my food in the afternoon, then at dinner, and then at dessert.
I think that's the big killer for a lot of people. I think like people love having like a massive dinner, but it's kind of like the worst time of day to eat it.
Yeah. Well, it's not necessarily the worst time of the day. It's only bad if you've been consuming a lot of calories throughout the rest of the day.
Yeah, sure.
It's not a simple calories in, calories out equation. Like I'd never say that that's exactly what weight loss comes down to. But it's a pretty good general rule to follow. There are many other factors that play into, you know, reaching goals and weight loss and whatnot. But looking at how much you're eating versus how much you're burning is a really good place to start. And if you're having big dinners, that's fine. But, you know, how much food are you consuming over the rest of the day?
Think about the whole thing. Yeah.
And so for like anyone out there that, you know, doesn't necessarily know if they want to invest in a coach or doesn't really know where to start, the best thing that I recommend for someone that's completely free is download the MyFitnessPal app and track your food for a day.
Yeah, cool.
So put the food that you eat in a day into MyFitnessPal, and then at the end of the day, look at your nutrition and look at how many proteins, how many carbs, and how many fats you're eating. You kind of want to aim for like a pretty even split. So something around the 40%, 30%, 30%. Doesn't really matter kind of which ones. It depends how much you're eating. If you're eating a hell of a lot of food, protein is the only one that we want to keep relatively consistent. Fats and carbs can be like a little bit interchangeable based on, you know, your personal preferences. So
you say you want to kind of keep the overall kind of amount the same, but kind of go up and down, like substitute them a little bit? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it kind of depends on your personal preferences. So with protein, you know, you could aim for, because we're in Australia, anywhere from like, so I'm 60 kilos, so 2 grams per kilo of body weight. So like 120 grams for someone like me. Did I say that equation right? Take your weight, times it by 2, and eat like approximately that much protein.
Yeah, sure.
And then you can, maths is not my strong suit. And then, you know, fill up the rest of your calories with proteins and fats. But have a look at what you're eating. Like if you're eating, you know, less than 100 grams of protein, it might not be enough. Or, and if, you know, if you're not getting the results that you're after, you know, do some research on, you know, macronutrients, tracking macronutrients, but a good place to start is bringing them down. But it's not always eating less. Sometimes it's eating more. Like people that have a history of dieting or low calorie eating actually have a damaged metabolism. And what that does is over time, if your body is so used to a lower intake of food, our body wants to find homeostasis. If it's like, okay, cool, 800 calories is a thing, fine, we'll chill out here. That's what we'll function on. And so like, and then one day you have, you know, 1,500 calories, which is, you know, still not even enough, but it's more than what your body's used to. Bang, you get stored as fat. So, you know, sometimes...
Must be hard to convince those people too. You're like, no, just eat this much every day. And they kind of start putting on weight. You're like, it'll be good.
And sometimes you do put on weight and it's trusting the process and it's fixing a lot of the hormonal damage that comes along with dieting as well. And, you know, women lose their periods trying to get that back. And... so I don't really want to say eat less to get better results because it's not always the way. For majority of people, you know, it is eating less, but there's a large number of people out there who don't eat a lot of food and can't get the results because their metabolism is damaged. And generally what we do with those clients is a process called reverse dieting, where you'll slowly add like 50 calories a week and that will slowly retrain the metabolism
reverse
up.
Dieting.
That's the term. I don't know who coined it.
No, it's cool.
But you slowly add a little bit of food every single week or a little bit more food every single week until you're at, you know, what's considered like a maintenance calories. Ideally over that period, you don't put on too much more weight. And then, you know, when you reach a point where if you're working with a coach, they feel like that's a good maintenance calorie, then you drop from there. And then that's where the body gets used to the higher calories. And then if you drop that down, then you'll lose weight. But you can't just drop straight into a further deficit if you're already not eating enough because
100%.
chances are your metabolism is not where it needs to be. So looking after your health first is, super important.
How long does that generally take as well? I'm guessing obviously it varies from person to person.
A pretty long time actually.
But 50 calories a week. I feel like it would take
it depends where you're at.
While,
you know, it can take anywhere up to 3 months or 6 months. Sometimes it's just a couple of weeks and then the metabolism will respond really quickly and it will start losing weight through the process. So a lot of people will lose weight as they eat more, which goes against the theory of eating less and losing weight. Which is why
picks up on the fact, I don't know, right. I guess,
it just retrains the
Doesn't have to store.
metabolism.
Like you said, that homeostasis kind of, whatever
Exactly.
it's used to.
And like the biggest thing is consistency as
so
well.
weird,
Oh my God, it is so weird and so interesting.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing is consistency too. So, hitting those targets every single day is really important, because if you're yo-yo dieting, eating a lot, eating not enough, eating a lot, eating not enough, that's how you damage your metabolism as well. So
I feel like it's so hard not to get into that, especially if you're starting out kind of losing weight. I think like a lot of people, they'll kind of hardcore diet for like 2-3 days and they're like, I'm going to do this. And then they just like crash and burn, and then it kind of leads to that like exact pattern.
And like I said before, I'm a big believer in eating when you're hungry and eating when you feel like it, but you have to earn that right.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like, I mean...
I was thinking that when you said that before, you got to kind of...
you kind of have to earn it. You can't just say to someone, eat when you're hungry. Like you have to be so in tune with... Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't have a business if that was really my first piece of advice.
Yeah.
You got to get to a stage where you're able to do that.
You can kind of trust yourself to make those decisions.
And you're making this decision based off knowing exactly what is right and exactly what is wrong. Or like what's good for you and what's maybe not so good for you. And not always having to make the decisions that are always good for you, but it's knowing when you make those other decisions, like how do you make decisions throughout the rest of the day to make sure that you're still on track towards your goals. So making sure that you're eating enough food is a really good place to start. And like the worst thing ever is when I see people banging their head against a wall and they're like, I'm not even eating anything, like I'm eating nothing and I'm not losing weight. And I'm like, that's the issue. Like you can't keep doing this to your body. It's not, you're abusing it. Like it's not going to lose weight.
Well, again, I think it's just that, like I was saying, like that kind of lack of general knowledge people have. They're just like, oh, I want to lose weight. I better just eat less.
So I have to be careful when I say like, it's the macros is like eat less than what you burn. And but that's the case for the healthy individual, and there are and when I say healthy, I mean like bodies that are functioning properly. And like a good way to know if your body's functioning properly is like, are you going to the toilet every single day? Females, are you getting your cycle every 27 to 30 days? Is your skin clear? Like, your body's systems have rhythms and they have cycles, and are they in line with those cycles? And obviously if you're not losing weight, then that's something that needs to be addressed as well. And it's a pretty big sign that something's not right internally.
Right, okay.
So recording what you're doing, using MyFitnessPal, getting yourself kind of accountable and aware of what you're doing is a really good place to start. Do your own research. There's so much stuff on the internet. Everything that we teach our clients, we're not reinventing the wheel. Like we are using common sense, but we're coaching people. Have you
got any good resources for finding things on the internet? Because I think there's also, you can find like a lot of craziness as well if you go the wrong places.
Everyone's an expert.
Oh man. I don't. I guess there are
or any kind of, I guess,
the method now.
Look, just send me an email. Like I don't have to sign up everyone as a client. I genuinely want to help. If someone has a question, I'll send you in the right direction. Not everyone has to sign up.
Maybe not celebrities, but people you kind of generally know who have like a really good idea that you kind of subscribe to. Out in the web. Just Google.
Not really. I mean, there's a couple of people that I like a guy called Dr. Axe, and he does functional medicine. I think he's I don't know if he's a doctor, but he does functional medicine. So like if I research something and I see that he's published an article, I generally trust what he says.
Okay. Check it out straight away.
I can't think off the top of my head, but I know obviously if they're in front of me, I'd probably have a bit of a better idea.
How do you spell that? Axe?
AXE.
Okay.
Functional medicine is generally a good place to start as well. So it's about healing the body with food.
Okay, cool.
So it's instead of pharmaceutical medicine, which I think has a time and a place, but quite often drugs are used to fix problems that food and just being healthy and looking after yourself can fix. So functional doctors kind of take into account more natural approaches to disease or healing ailments. So looking at functional doctors is really good. Podcasts are good and generally have a different approach.
Podcasts are good.
They are. They're amazing. I guess it's like our demographic. It's like new research.
Definitely.
It's generally not funded by big corporations, which might like skew the research just a little bit. So podcasts I find are just people that are really passionate, are actually doing
really genuine too. I think.
And doing research and are working with people and have real world examples.
Yeah, cool. Which podcast do you recommend?
I Oh man,
Put you on the
Put it on the spot again, Christo.
yeah, I think it's because I
ones?
don't subscribe. I generally like to search topics as opposed to subscribing to podcasts. My favorite podcast is the ATP Project, and ATP are a supplement company in Australia. And what I really love about them is the two hosts of the project. I think there's three now. There's two naturopaths, and then one of the guys that's also a business owner. One thing with supplements is, first of all, I think that supplements are there to supplement a healthy diet. So I don't think that you can take any supplement that will, be more important than getting adequate sleep and eating enough vegetables and exercising every day. But what I love about these guys is you can tell that they rigorously test their products as well. So there are so many supplements out there that like claim to be like clean and pure and, good quality, but for the purpose of marketing and making money, you can say they're natural or say they're organic, but they're not.
Sure.
And these guys are from Australia, which obviously is awesome for us. But, they were talking about one of their products and he was like, we tested this 12 times to make sure that it was exactly the herb that we say that it is, because obviously you can make synthetic versions of everything that get recognized under certain tests as actually being the product, but they're synthetic. They've been created in a lab. So when they're putting together their supplements, and all their supplements are made up of herbs as well and natural products, you know that you're actually getting the real thing, not something that mimics the real thing that might not actually be processed as the real thing once it actually hits your body. And they're just so switched on with nutrition, so switched on. Like a lot of times in my coaching, like I'm not a dietitian, I'm not a nutritionist, and I don't say that I am. And if there's something that's outside of my scope of expertise, I'll often refer to the ATP podcast. They've got a podcast on everything health related. If someone's like having an issue with a certain area, I'm not going to say that I'm going to diagnose or cure anything, but here is a podcast that talks all about it. They mention the symptom profile. So if this is
they just kind of explore the idea quite a bit,
that resonates with you and you feel like, oh my God, that's me, then maybe we can discuss that a little bit more, but like here is the resource for you to go and learn a little bit more. So they touch on a bunch of different things. So that's my favorite podcast.
Cool, subscribed.
I also like Barbell Shrugged. It's a CrossFit podcast, and they talk about a lot of things, health and nutrition. Some of my favorite people to listen to, Craig Ballantyne from Early to Rise. I think he has a podcast with Bedros Keuilian or something like that. Just people that are going out there and doing really cool things. And I also like Aubrey Marcus and his I don't know what his podcast is called, but he owns Honor Academy in America. And he's all about like optimizing your day and, human performance and like brain performance and stuff like that.
It's kind of different side of it.
It's like learning different things. And,
definitely. Oh, that's cool.
So sorry I don't have any like
particular... No, that's cool. I think we definitely got some stuff. I'll go through podcasts to check out. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's one of those things as well when you have to think about it, you like forget about it immediately.
Oh, no, I'm the same, though.
But there's so many good podcasts out there.
Oh, awesome. Cool. Well, I think we're actually at time, so I think we have to kind of wrap things up. But thanks so much for coming on, teaching us all these things. Where can people find you if they're looking for you? So my Instagram is just at Kayla Banfield. The Method Instagram is at The Method Now. Our website is themethodnow.com.au. I love meeting new people. I love helping people. Like I said before, if you have any questions that are nutrition or health related, no obligation to sign up whatsoever. Happy to point you in the right direction, give you any advice that I can based off what you tell me. I really just like, meeting new people and learning about, what people's goals are and helping in that way. So if you want to shoot me a message, or my email is kayla@themethodnow.com.au. Awesome. Sweet. Reach out, y'all. Yeah. Cool. Send me a message. Even if it's just say hi. I try and respond to all of my Instagram messages. Hi. Sometimes I'll just say hi back, but I feel accomplished. I'm like, cool. Okay. I've got back to that person. I like it. Cool. All right. Thanks again. Thanks so much for having me, guys. Thanks. See ya.